Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Patty again here to tell you another story about the mean king. That story is called Songs by the Sea. And we're going to hear from Maxi and Mini, and it's called The Paddle Boat Picnic. I hope you enjoy. Songs by the Side of the Sea, Exodus 13:17 through 15:19. Never before had the Egyptians seen so many Hebrew slaves in one place. There were no more than 1,000,000 of them. But then they were not slaves now. The king had ordered them all to leave the land. The king's people had begged them to leave. All of the Egyptians were afraid of Moses and his people because of the troubles that God had sent to Egypt. "Go," the king said, "get out of Egypt." Moses and his people were going. They wanted to get out of Egypt before the king changed his mind again. "But where are we going?" some of Moses' people asked. "To a new land that God had promised," said others. "Moses will lead us there." "How will Moses know the way?" "God will show him." God did show Moses where to go. Before long, a beautiful cloud appeared. It was like a tall pillar. "God will lead us with that cloud," Moses told his people. By day, it was a cloud. By night, it was a pillar of fire. The people knew then that God was with them all the time. How happy they were to know that God was leading them to a new land. At last, Moses and his people came to the Red Sea. Behind them was Egypt. Before them, on the other side of the sea, was a way to the land God had promised. "But how will we get across?" some wondered. "God will show us a way," said others. Suddenly, all the people began to panic. "Chariots," they cried. "The king's men have come to kill us." Clouds of dust rode up behind the chariots. There were hundreds of them. Closer and closer came the king's men. "What will we do?" the people cried out. "Will we be killed?" "God will take care of us," Moses shouted to the people. "Don't be afraid." Something strange began to happen. The pillar of cloud moved toward the king's men. It grew bigger and bigger as it moved. Then it went behind the king's men and Moses' people. The king's men could not see Moses and his people now, so they had to stop. "Hold out your hand toward the sea," God said to Moses. When Moses did that, a strong wind blew. The people could hardly believe their eyes. The waters of the sea began to move apart. "Get ready to march by sunrise," Moses commanded. All night long, the wind whipped through the camp as the people made ready to march again. At last, the first rosy tints of sunrise painted the sky and the sea. Then the people saw a great path of dry land leading to the other side. "Through the sea," Moses commanded. As Moses walked through the sea to the other side, his people followed behind, looking this way and that way at the water on each side of them. When the last of Moses' people had climbed safely to the other side, someone gave a shout. "The Egyptians are coming!" The king's men raced across the path with their chariots. But as they did, Moses stretched out his hand toward the sea, and the water rushed back into a path. The king's men were frightened. "Go back!" they shouted, but they couldn't. The water poured over them and their chariots. There were no one to fight for the king now. Moses and his people were free. The morning sunshine painted the mountains a rosy gold. A shaft of sunlight glistened on the sea. Then a voice began to sing. The great crowd of people joined in, and the mountains and hills echoed with a song of praise to God. The people were free. Never again would they be slaves, and never again would they forget this great choir of voices singing praises to God for setting them free. What do you think? What did God do for his people? Why was that such a wonderful thing for him to do? What did the people do to thank God for his goodness? How do you think God felt when he heard the great choir of voices singing praises to him? How do you think the king felt when he heard it? Paddle boat picnic. What's a paddle boat? Minnie asked. It's fun, said Poppy Muffin. It's a little boat with paddles that turn some pedals. You make it go by turning the pedals round and round, like riding a bike. It is like riding a bike? Asked Minnie. Can I do it too? Of course, said Poppy. You and Maxi will be the boat's motor. This will be one of the most fun-filled picnics. A paddle boat picnic, said Mommy. Doesn't that sound like fun? It did. So the Muffin family talked about their paddle boat picnic all the way to the boathouse on the river. Before long, the man at the boathouse had 2 paddle boats ready to go. He helped Mommy and Poppy into one. Then he helped Minnie and Maxie into the other, along with Rough and Tough. You can go anywhere in the lagoon, said the man. You can go along the banks of the river. You don't go into the middle of the river. The current is too swift. The paddle boats were even more fun than Minnie and Maxie had thought they would be. They chased Mommy and Poppy for a while. Then Mommy and Poppy chased them for a while. After that, they all went exploring along the banks of the river. At last, Mommy and Poppy pulled their boat up to the place where they were going to have the picnic. We'll get lunch ready, said Mommy, but come when you are called. Minnie and Maxie waved and were off in their paddle boat. Look, said Minnie, there's a duck. Maybe she wants to play tag. Away went the paddle boat toward the duck, but the duck swam off to the side as Minnie and Maxie went by. Ruff barked at the duck. The duck gave a long quack, quack, quack at Ruff. Maxie and Minnie turned the boat around and tried again, but the duck was too fast for them. He swam off to the other side. Again and again, Minnie and Maxie tried to catch the duck, but the duck always won. They were having so much fun, they didn't watch where they were going. Suddenly, Minnie caught her breath. Maxie, she cried, we're out in the river. Look, we're being carried into the current. Maxie tried to turn the paddle boat around, but it was too late. The swift current of the river began to sweep them along. Faster and faster they went. Look out, shouted Minnie. Maxie looked in time to see a giant log caught on some rocks ahead, but it was too late to do anything about it. The paddle boat rammed into the log, throwing Maxie and Minnie into the water. Hold on to the log, shouted Maxie. Help, cried Minnie. Coming, Poppy called. Rough and Tough scrambled to the top of the big log. Minnie and Maxie held on tight. In a few minutes, Poppy was there with his paddle boat and had them safely inside. Whoa, that was close, said Minnie later as they sat down to eat their picnic lunch. The Lord took care of you, said Poppy. So let's have a little thank you time, said Minnie. Rough and Tough sat quietly as the Muffin family sang a happy song about God and thanked him for taking care of them. May we have another paddle boat ride after lunch? Maxie asked when they had finished their thank you time. In the lagoon, said Poppy. Yes, said Maxie, in the lagoon. Let's talk about this. Why did the Muffin family have a thank you time? What do you do when God has helped you? Do you have a thank you time with God? What do you think God wants you to do when He helps you, and why? Okay, boys and girls, that was another great story. I hope you enjoyed it. Next time when we come back, we're going to go into another group of stories. 4 friends that followed Jesus. Guys, I hope you guys are following Jesus. I want to follow Jesus. You have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.